Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemazzer. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Hawk Blogger. And a good Friday morning to all of you. Sorry for being a little bit late. Most of you that are watching this later anyway probably don't even notice, but try to be on time. These post OTA shows are some of my favorite shows to do because we get to talk about a little bit, we get to learn a little bit, and so I enjoy getting all that to share and discuss with all of you. On the other hand, I'm trying to produce a little bit more on the the editing and the visual side and the audio side and the video side, which takes more time. So pushed us back a little bit. Honestly, probably should have pushed back a few more minutes, but I think we've got enough to go by and a couple of things that I wanted to go over with all of you. So looking forward to that for sure. If you have not already liked and subscribed to the show, I humbly ask that you do so right now. Easy thing to do. I think you'll enjoy getting this info. And the other piece that I wanted to call out, some folks have said, hey, like there's a lot of these ads that pop up on YouTube. It's like out of control. And I actually don't pick where the ads go or how many ads there are. That's a YouTube controlled thing. There is an easy way to consume this content without any ads, at least any of those YouTube style ads. And that is to become a patron, patreon.com/hawkblogger. It is easy to do. It's not that much to do. And you get ad-free audio of this show every single day immediately following the show. So if you're, getting a little tired of the ads or whatever, then think about signing up at patreon.com/hawkblogger. I think your other alternative, I wish I could offer ad-free just by becoming a YouTube member, but that doesn't seem to be an option. You can become a YouTube premium member. And so I believe that will also get rid of the ads if you're looking for options there. But setting all of that aside, let me just, I see a bunch of our YouTube members in the chat. Good morning to Jacob Moon. Good morning, Hawks fan Matt Man. Good morning to Plenipote. Good morning to everybody. So really looking forward to jumping right in, which we are about to do. So a number of clips I'm going to go through today. And kind of the news of the day was that JSN had a big one. He went off for, I guess, like 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns in this session, and that's good to hear. This is a OTA where DK Metcalf was not in attendance. That's nothing to be concerned about. DK has been at other OTAs, and that's just fine. I see someone says he has 7. I don't know. I heard 5, but in any event, he had a big day in red zone drills, and we'll hear a little bit about that. But there was actually quite a few tidbits we're going to go through, and we'll get to that in just a moment. So let's keep going through some of these items. I think one of the coolest things we got today is just that Mike Macdonald is pretty darn happy with how things are going, and especially in this particular practice. So let me pull this up real quick. I'm going to play some audio. We'll kind of juggle things as I do that. Hopefully, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to be shuffling through a bunch of different audio over the course of the show. And apologies if it takes me a second to switch between different tabs as I do this. All right. Hopefully you guys can hear this. Let me know if you can't.
It was a great day out there, man. It's a lot of good football, a lot of good situation stuff. We got better today, so I'm pretty stoked. So great day out there, beautiful weather, great football weather, and we got after it. So I'm really excited right now.
That's a great way to open. I think it's cool that Mike Macdonald has really gained momentum as the practices have gone on. It was great to hear from him today that he was pretty excited about how this went. And we'll get into some other content from him in just a second. But before we do, let me apologies for fumbling through this. So there was a couple guys that spoke for the first time today. We'll hear from them in just a bit. One of them was Sam Howell. One of them was Pharaoh Brown. So it was great to hear from both of them today. I didn't get a chance to cut up any of the Jarran Reed audio, but we may poke around. There's a couple comments in there that were worth talking about. Next, as far as news to know, things that I think are that jumped out to me in general. As I said, Sam Howell spoke for the first time. It was a big day for Jackson Smith and Jigba. We just talked about and heard from Mike Macdonald that he loved the practice. The other bit of news here, Jerome Baker, we got a little bit more clarity on timeline here. He is out until training camp as far as Mike Macdonald expects, and that he is also dealing with some lower body issues. And these, he didn't say any specifics about what those were, but he implied he wasn't going to be back till camp, which is July. So that's a ways to go. And there was also some conversation, not from Mike Macdonald, but just from reporters, that this was rumored to be part of why Miami moved on from him, did not bring him back. So just something to monitor, because that tight end room is incredibly thin. And we'll have a little bit more from Mike Macdonald on the tight ends. Not the tight end room, the linebacker room. Apologies, folks. We'll have a little bit more from Mike Macdonald on linebackers a little bit later in the show. Tyrell Dodson also still out. Unclear what his injury is or what's keeping him out. Does not appear to be serious. He was limited in last week's OTAs, which meant he was going through some of the walkthroughs and stuff, but was not on the field for team drills. I thought there was some interesting Ryan Grubb insight, and we'll get into that a little bit more as well. All right, let's keep going here. Oh, before I do, so this is a picture from yesterday's OTA of Tariq Woolen. So everybody, was saying, or at least Mike Salk and Maura Dooley were saying that he looks thicker. This is the first picture I've seen of Tariq Woolen this year. It does look like his legs are a little bit thicker, but I'd have to do like a comparison photo from last year to really have a better idea. I wonder if I can find something really quick. Because last year he was, I remember seeing a picture and being like, dang, like those are some skinny legs. And I'm kind of looking through a few photos right now. None of them make the way he looks in this photo that I'm showing you here look particularly different, to be honest. I mean, I would like to tell you that I see a big difference, but as I'm looking through these pictures. Here's a decent one. Here, let me see if I can I will bring this picture up and see if I can show it to you as a comparison. I mean, let me copy this image, and I'm going to do a quick little edit here for you all in real time. Let's just do this for fun. Why not? We're going to create a new page real quick, and I will paste for you a picture of Tariq Woolen. This is as a rookie. You can decide for yourself how that compares to Tariq Woolen pictured yesterday. So I think if you look at his lower legs, his thighs definitely look thicker here in the picture on the left here. So I think that, and if you look at his below the knee is where I always thought, I mean, that's where you can tell whether a player is fast based off the size of their ankles and their calves. This is like a factual thing. It's just real. And he just has these spindly from knee down. It's just like really thin. And if you look on the left here, it does look like he's added some muscle, some thickness there. So that's a, we'll decide together whether that's real or not, but it does seem like he's put on a little bit there. Let's hear from Mr. Macdonald about the big day from JSN. This video is courtesy of Corbin Smith.
Yeah, shoot, it's great. It's great. I mean, JSN's a great player, and expecting great big things out of him. He's had a great offseason. Works his tail off. His practice habits are awesome. Movement ability is pretty elite. So I think we got a really cool player playing for him, and for him and Spoon, a lot of times they end up going against each other. It's tough right now. You can't contest the ball, but you're trying to be competitive. We're in these red zone periods, so there's a delicate balance there. But I thought we handled it great today, staying off the ground, still making some really good plays and executing at a high level. So good day.
It has to be incredibly frustrating for the defensive players, the secondary players especially, to be sitting here unable to make a play on the football. Especially Devin Witherspoon. I could just imagine how aggravated he is to not be able to go after the football. And at the same time, also kind of funny to hear Mike Macdonald can't just compliment the offense. He has to bring up that the guys can't make plays on the ball. And I mean, that's all good. I mean, he's a defensive coach, but it's funny how these things always come through, and he will always bring it back to the defense. And I'm kind of happy about that. I mean, be who you are, and the team needs him to be a like defensive minded guy. And at the same time, what have we talked about, folks? Jackson Smith and Jigba making a jump, not just from being like a good player, but to being I think he can be a great receiver. I think he can be a great receiver that is one of the parts of this offense that makes it one of the most difficult to defend. And when you've got a player that is elite at creating separation and at agility, then if you can get good chemistry with the quarterback, it is very difficult to defend those kinds of players. And as much as DK Metcalf is a baller at receiver, at the X, he is not a separation receiver. So you're not generally going to be able to depend on him being open at a specific time or specific place. Even Tyler Lockett, as we talked about in past episodes, if you listen to the wide receiver episode I did a little while ago, his separation, his average separation per route is dropping, as you'd expect as a player's getting older. So JSN is an elite separation guy, one of the most agile receivers in football, and he should be a massive weapon for this team. And so, yes, it's OTAs. Yes, this is against basically air because the defenders can't make plays in the ball. But if you'd asked me, would I rather hear Jackson Smith and Jigba going off for a bunch of touchdowns, or, pick another guy? I mean, would I rather hear Tyler Lockett doing that? Probably not, to be honest. Would I rather hear Jake Bobo? Not really. Like JSN is the guy. If I could pick one player that I wanted to hear is playing really well in practice and is really difficult to defend and is growing in chemistry with his quarterback, that's the guy. That is the guy. So I was appreciative of kind of hearing that, and hopefully it continues. By the way, I am, just to give a little plug here to the design work. I'm loving this font work I've done. It's working for me. That might be my new font. So love the little glowing green outline. That's working for me. All right. Now we got Sam Howell. This is a Sam Howell comment. I did not get the audio for it, I don't believe. And this is something that this is from a Brady Henderson tweet, friend of show. And before I even get into this, that reminds me, I was actually going to try to get another friend of show, Michael Sean Dugar, on. And he's busy planning his, getting ready for his wedding. So he's getting married in a few weeks. So want to give a shout out to Mike and his lovely bride and or fiance still, I guess, and wish them all the best, man. He's one of the guys I really respect on the beat. All right. So this is from the other guy I really respect on the beat, Brady Henderson. And there's a quote from Sam Howell that said, "I think I can play some smarter ball." And he went on to talk about that there were times in Washington when they fell down, they were behind big, and he got too aggressive in trying to get them back in the game. So that got me thinking. I was like, all right, if that's true, what were his splits? And folks, I think I'm going to break some news for you. If you heard about this somewhere else, you let me know, but I hadn't heard about it anywhere else. And I'm pretty obsessed about pulling in Seahawks news. Sam Howell had a lot of interceptions last year, 21 to be exact. How many of those do you think came when his team was playing from behind? Out of those 21 interceptions, how many of those came when his team was playing from behind? I'll give you a second. Give me some guesses. Give me some guesses in chat. Out of 21, how many came when he was playing from behind? And don't guess 21 because that's just, annoying. But that's a good guess, Garth. Thank you. 14. There's Max being annoying. 21. No, that's annoying. Don't do that, Max. More than half, Michael Fawcett says. 22. Now Max is upping it. 17. Jeffrey 4 sounds like he might have looked it up. That is actually the actual answer. 17 of Sam Howell's 21 interceptions came when his team was behind. How many of them came when he was ahead? 1. He threw 1 interception when his team was in front. I personally find that to be a very encouraging number. And it aligns exactly with what Sam said yesterday, that he pressed and got too aggressive when his team was behind. And talk about a correctable area. Now, there's a caveat here. There's always a caveat. This isn't a panacea. He still threw them. And the caveat is Washington was behind a lot. They weren't a very good team. So maybe the majority of his throws were in those situations, right? At the same time, like, to give you an idea, 411 attempts were when they were behind. 88 were when they were ahead. So it's a huge difference. The Commanders were behind all the time. That's why they had the number 2 pick in the draft. But I still think that there's something to this where they were throwing the ball so much last year, and so often it was when they were from behind. So often, not only was he pressing, but the other team's defense knew they were ahead and knew they could pin their ears back, and led to increased pressure that also contributes to interceptions. So I do think this is something. I think this is something. It's not everything. It doesn't change everything, but I do think it's worth calling out here. I don't know if I have place for another Sam Howell comment in my bag. I forgot where in my slides I am. I can go look, but a couple other things here. Sam Howell had 8 of his interceptions come in the fourth quarter. 11 of them came in the second half, but the majority of his interceptions that from a quarterly basis came in the fourth quarter. So I think that's also an indicator of a good chunk of those coming when the game was likely out of reach and he is just trying to make a play. And the opposing defense is all pass rush and all coverage. Like, they know what's coming. So I just thought that was a pretty big note. Here's a quick comment from Mike Macdonald. We'll see about Sam Howell. We'll see if I'm duplicating and if this shows up somewhere else. But listen to this comment from Mike Macdonald. Oh, sorry. Totally blew up. I had it all queued and then I messed it up. So let me try to fix that. Sorry, folks. The sadness of missing that so badly. All right, let me see if I can find it real quick. Basically, he had a comment on Sam Howell and where he was, and basically said he is similar to where the team is. Um, and so I wanted to share that with you guys real quick. Okay, I think I found it. I did find it. Okay. All right, let's try this one more time. This is Mike Macdonald talking about where Sam Howell is. And let me bring this up for you all. Here we go.
I think he is representative of where we're at as a football team. You know, I think Sam has improved every time we've come out here, and it's really exciting. He's thrown the ball really well today. He made some really good decisions here and some situational work that was exciting to see, with only going over it in one day. So football intelligence is high. Obviously, his ability is what it needs to be. So he's right there, but I think he mirrors where we're at as a team right now. So we're excited about Sam.
So that was Mike Macdonald talking about Sam Howell, basically mirroring where they are as a team. And I think that the reason that stuck out to me is he didn't say Sam Howell's playing wonderful. He didn't say Sam Howell's playing terribly. But he did say that he's improving. He did say they're excited. He did say that my basic takeaway from that conversation was that Sam Howell is still not quite blowing up at OTAs. He's playing well, but that he's got room to grow, and that's kind of how they're thinking about him. All right. As we transition to the other, we got a super chat from Garth Knight, one of our most prolific super chatters. He says, by the way, I'm not a JSN guy, but I'm willing to be wrong. I thought Tim Duncan would be a bust to give you my credentials. Well, I appreciate that, Garth. And, I very much am a JSN guy. He is a 99th percentile agility guy. He is one of the best route runners to come out of the draft in recent history. And he was a guy that was uniformly, both by the players, the coaches, and the analysts, considered the best of the receivers when he was there. And both Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave both became like rookie of the year level receivers. So I think almost all signs are very positive about Jackson Smith and Jigba. All right, let's keep going. There were some tidbits about our guy, Ryan Grubb. And got this from a few different players, and we'll have to remember where these are coming from. I think this is going to be some audio you're going to hear, hopefully, of Sam Howell talking about Ryan Grubb.
Definitely a quarterback-friendly offense. And Eric Bieniemy's offense was kind of similar in that way, that it was a quarterback-friendly offense. And both of those guys like to throw the ball a lot, so it's definitely a lot of fun to play.
What makes it quarterback-friendly?
I think just how aggressive he is, and just how much he wants to push the ball down the field. And that's kind of similar to what I've done in the past. And it's definitely the offense that I feel like I want to play in.
So you heard from Sam Howell there saying quarterback friendly. We've heard that from him. We've heard that from Geno Smith. I agree with chat. I mean, come on. Why can't we get Ryan Grubb to do a press conference, man? I want to hear from this guy. I want to hear from Scott Huff. Monday is going to be another press open OTA. Maybe we'll hear from Mr. Grubb then. Who knows? But in any event, you heard that Sam Howell said, just like Eric Bieniemy's offense, they like to push the ball down the field. So, nothing surprising there. I think it's good to hear, and that puts a lot on the aggressive plays on the quarterback's shoulders. And I think they've got the right quarterbacks for this. One of the reasons, not only am I excited about Grubb because I like the type of offense, I like his play calls, I like the chutzpah that he shows in how he approaches the OC position. But I also think it's just a fantastic fit. Like, the types of throws that Michael Penix was asked to make are the types of throws I think Geno Smith is great at. And so I'm really looking forward to that. I think Sam Howell also has a great arm and can put the ball in some tight spaces. So I just think it's a really good match there. There were some other comments, though. Pharaoh Brown, the tight end, was talking about the offense. And let me share this audio. 1 second as I pull that up. Hopefully I can do that without causing all sorts of chaos like last time.
It's completely different. I mean, none of it is, mostly all the NFL people come off the Bill Parcells tree and all these different trees. So, the foundation of the offenses is in the NFL across, the league is fairly similar, right? And it's just different verbiage, right? This is like a whole new animal. So we was just talking about with our tight ends just trying to figure out, is it slowing down yet? Is it going to stop? We keep getting these installs and we keep getting new plays, and we trying to go back and perfect the old stuff, but new stuff keep coming in. So it's kind of fun because you're always on your toes. You don't know what's coming next. So it's been exciting.
So that was Pharaoh Brown talking about the fact, I thought there was a lot of interesting things in that clip. And the first of them was that he talked about it as a different animal. He talked about it as like, he said there are a lot of things come from like the Bill Parcells tree, or they come from these different places, but this is a different animal. So just from the start, that's new. That's not, most people would say things come from a specific area, and Pharaoh Brown is not the definitive expert on offensive play calling trees and where they've come from. Obviously, Ryan Grubb has not invented a new offense completely, but what Pharaoh Brown's kind of talking about is that these are things that usually, if you've been in the NFL for a little while, you kind of can build off of other things that you've known. And this is a double-edged sword. On one hand, I personally get excited because I'd rather something be new, and I'd rather see if the Seahawks can be on the cutting edge, and if it works out, great. On the flip side, it can also mean that he is doing things that are complicated, that the team, it can't quite pick up, that haven't been tried in the NFL because they won't work in the NFL, or they have been tried and then been discarded. So I'm personally excited that Pharaoh Brown was talking there about new things. But I think it's also worth just being realistic that that could be bad news as well, depending on how it plays out. I want to play a clip. I'm going to try to do this. I don't have it prepped, which is always fun, for me. But I want to play a clip that also stuck out for me related to this. And it was from Geno Smith yesterday. Where did it go? I had this somewhere. I will look for it. But he was on the Jim Rome show, and he was talking about, if I don't find it really quickly, I'll just forget it. But he was on the Jim Rome show talking about that there were plays that he hadn't seen before that were coming from Ryan Grubb. I'm not finding it quickly, but yes, I will. If I find it, I will share it. So I guess, yeah, in general, I'm excited about the idea that he is bringing something new and different. But, it could go multiple ways, and that's just a reality of it. We'll take one more look, see if I can find it. I just saw it 2 seconds ago. It was, I thought it was a pretty good quote from Geno that I think you guys would like. But I am not finding it. So, wow, I'm bad at this Twitter thing all of a sudden. I don't know how to find things I was looking for like 2 seconds ago. Okay, we'll keep going. So other things that he said, that Pharaoh Brown said in that quote, was that they're like kind of wondering if things are going to slow down. That the tight ends are talking to each other like, I think it's going to slow down because Ryan Grubb is installing so much so fast that they're maybe having a little trouble keeping up. And again, that's a double-edged sword. On one hand, that's a really good sign that he is, not holding back. He's holding a high bar for his players to actually keep up with the offense, that he's going to install the offense and that he's expecting them to keep up with it. At the same time, I talked about last week, I really liked how Mike Macdonald was clear in saying, hey, we're not going to just install, and if execution is not good, we're going to just keep doing it anyway. He wants to make sure that the players are doing it the right way. And so we're not hearing necessarily indications that they are not doing it the right way, but it does sound like it's going a little bit faster than people might have, at least in the tight end room, wanted to see. I'm still looking for that video. I'm so stubborn. Anyway, all right, we'll keep going. So there was one other bit from Pharaoh Brown here, and this was about the actual what the game film is that they're using to do the installs. I thought this was interesting as well.
I watched too much of Washington offense that I could have been in the draft room and gave some good details on some of the scouting. I watched a lot of freaking Washington. Every clip was Washington, right? When you installing, all the stuff was Washington. So I'm ready for us to get out there and make some plays so we can get on some of these example tapes because I'm still watching Washington.
So that was Pharaoh Brown talking about the fact that they are still that they are watching Washington tape as example tape for installs. And what does that mean? I mean, maybe you don't think this is at all a surprise. I still think it's worth, mentioning. There's a question. Hey, was Grubb going to come to the NFL and do a different type of offense? Or was he going to utilize a lot of his Washington offense, but in the NFL? And this is, I think, relatively good confirmation that he's going to be using a lot of his Washington scheme in the NFL. If they're watching a lot of Washington tape, one could surmise that that's because those are the types of plays that they are installing. And there was a later point where Pharaoh Brown someone asked him, hey, is it helpful to have Jack Westover in here to help you with, understanding? And Pharaoh Brown just said, I mean, he was being polite. He's like, he basically was saying, I'm a pro, dude. I'm pretty good at studying. I know how to get these things, regardless of whether an undrafted rookie is here or not. But he does go to Jack Westover at times just to kind of ask, like, hey, what is Grubb looking for here? What's he trying to do here? And so I think that was worth hearing and interesting stuff from Pharaoh Brown, who is a guy that I'm looking forward to watching on the team. Another bit from Pharaoh Brown. I'll share this real quick. I don't think I really need to play the audio, but why not, since we've got it somewhere here. Yeah. So I'll play this real quick. Pharaoh Brown, this is him talking about being used in multiple ways.
I tell him anything I can do, I'll do. I've been a fullback, I've been a wide tight end, I've been catching balls, special teams. So I feel like my role changes game to game, right? Game plan, depending on, when we play different teams, just different things that I'm asked to do, right? So that role I think is going to be a changing thing for me.
So that was Pharaoh Brown talking about the fact, at least this is a first bit of news for me on this front, that Pharaoh Brown has been a fullback or played fullback. And we talked about on this show how one of the things that makes Jack Westover interesting to me is that I think he can be an H-back in the Kyle Juszczyk mold. And Rob Staten has confirmed that when he interviewed Jack Westover, that Westover actually brought up Kyle Juszczyk, which is, to me, pretty exciting. But now we've got another guy here in Pharaoh Brown that has done that before. And he's definitely a bigger player than Jack Westover. Pharaoh Brown, how big is he? He's 246 pounds. At least that's what it says here. Jack Westover it says Jack Westover is 247 pounds. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I've always thought Jack Westover is a very light dude. But maybe I'm off. I'm seeing somewhere else they have him at 230. So who knows what his actual weight is. But I always thought Jack Westover was a little bit on the lighter side. But it's interesting. It's interesting that Pharaoh Brown's a guy that could be used in that regard. And it could be interesting that they have a potential for multiple guys at the tight end position to be flexible. This is a real emerging theme that we're hearing from a lot of guys. And in fact, I didn't grab the audio of this, but I'll search around and I think I'll be able to find it pretty quickly on the Jarran Reed side. Some conversation from him and some comments from him about that on the defensive line. All right. We got a super chat here. Let me get to that. V-Ray says, thank you for the super chat, by the way. Playing against a defensive-minded head coach, they should be able to find out how quickly if the offense is at an NFL level or not. I 100% agree. I mean, if you heard me on the show, a Real Hawk Talk episode Wednesday night, or if you listened to it since, and I'm talking about the best case scenario for the Seahawks, it's not hard for me to get excited about it. And part of it is because I think the coaching is so fortunate to have fallen the way it has for the Seahawks to get the best possible defensive coach in the league. I don't think there's, if you could have, other than maybe, I think you could argue that Steve Spagnuolo deserves some nod in this regard. I mean, the guy's been the leader of defenses that have won like 4 Super Bowls or more. And he's been just massively important. But generally speaking, you got the best defensive minded head coach out there. And then you got the number 1 play caller and offensive coordinator in college football, who was highly desired by Nick Saban, and he turned Nick Saban down. And then he eventually turned down Alabama after he went there with his buddy. But I just believe the two of them are going to push each other to make each other better. And I think that the best possible outcome is going to happen when you've got 2 experts on either side of the ball really going back and forth. And we should want to have really spirited practices where each side's getting after it. There was a great comment from Macdonald that I can try to find here, but he was kind of talking about how they're trying to get people to kind of compete. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out if there's this quote here, but I can't find it. Anyway, he's basically saying that the goal of what they're trying to do is figure out how to get really high execution. Let me see. I think I might just have found it. Let's see. We'll try this. Let me know if hopefully you guys will be able to hear this okay.
Again, I think we do a pretty good job. We'll see. I mean, it's I think it's the mentality of, as the offense, like the offense should be able to execute at a high level, catch a lot of. We should be completing a lot of passes out there, which is what we saw today. So that's good for the Seahawks. And I think what the guys have to understand, and what we keep reinforcing the messages is, right now we're chasing execution. We're not chasing incomplete contested catches. We're chasing making the right calls, being in position to make plays, that sort of thing. We're really competing against ourselves, and I think we've done a good job of explaining that to the guys, and it shows on tape. Hey, you were right there. You're in a great spot. We're rolling next play. Offense, we executed. We caught the ball. It's a touchdown. Overall, great play for us. So it's probably easier than it might seem to you guys.
So that was the clip. Glad I found it. I really love that from Mike Macdonald. That is an indication that he's able to help the defense know what he's looking for. And it's not even effort. I mean, obviously it's that, but we do always hear from Pete about effort and that kind of stuff. But like Mike Macdonald's like, did you run the thing the right way? We're chasing execution, was his quote. And again, he's kind of like, yeah, the offense should be catching touchdowns. And he's a little bit, belittling that. But really what he's saying is, for the defenders, how do they define success in these limited, constrained environments? And it sounds like he's got a pretty good idea of how to do that. Like, I loved his answer and the way he addressed that. I think that that's exactly right. And I think as a player, they've got to be pretty excited about that. Here was, by the way, Mike Macdonald talking about linebackers. This is another area where there's been some issues. So here is Mike Macdonald talking about the linebacker position.
Yeah, well, it's tough because some of the guys aren't out there, so it's something we're chasing right now. And we're seeing how it fits and where guys feel more comfortable, inside or outside, that sort of thing. So probably early to kind of give you a full report on that.
And here is Mike Macdonald talking about Jerome Baker.
He's working through some things right now. We probably won't see him, until training camp at this level. So he's gonna be fine, but just right now we won't see him out in OTAs. The wrist, and he's got a couple other things like lower body stuff that he's working through.
That was Mike Macdonald talking about the linebacker room, and some video here for folks interested of the the back group in action, or at least on the field, from Greg Bell on Twitter. So you see with this group, you're talking about John Radigan and Patrick O'Connell. It is thin, man. We talked about this, but this is not ideal. This is not ideal. And the fact that you won't get Jerome Baker until training camp, not ideal. The fact that Tyrell Dodson's not out there, not ideal. I'm going to do a show maybe as soon as tomorrow. I'm going to start looking at other rosters about where there's teams that might be linebacker heavy, that could potentially be trade partners, that could potentially have a salary cap casualty. There's still some post-June guys that might happen. I'm going to start looking for where there could be some opportunity for the Seahawks to add to this room, because it is glaring to me this, like, it has to be glaring to them as well. Them going into the season with this group as is feels borderline irresponsible. And I'm trying to find, maybe I've got it here. I'll try to find if we've got some Tyrese stuff. He did talk about the fact that they're trying to give the linebackers opportunities for mental reps and other things. Okay, here is, you'd hope that maybe Tyrese would be an answer, but if you listen to this from Mike Macdonald, I don't think that that's likely right now. Okay, here's Mike Macdonald on Tyrese Knight.
Have you seen of Tyrese Knight so far?
He's coming along. Like, it's the mentality's there. The game's fast for him right now, but it's a process. It's his 5th practice, with the big boys, and like all the rookies, they have a lot to learn. But he's making some plays and he's seeing some things right now. So there's definitely things that there's a foundation there that we're excited about. But he's a rookie right now, so he's got to pick it up just like the rest of them.
So what you couldn't see there is Mike Macdonald he started that answer when he was asked. I think it was Bob Condotta who was asking, how do you feel about Tyrese Knight? And Mike Macdonald kind of was like he's kind of shaking his head. He was saying, like, you could see he's got a few tells, I would say, pretty early on. When he's excited and someone's playing well, he just goes right into it. Like, you hear him talk about Devin Witherspoon is the most obvious. He smiles immediately. He just goes. JSN, the earlier things, he like very quickly got into all the things that are going right there. When he knows that the guys aren't necessarily playing up to where their standards are, you'll see the wheels turn. You just see it. There's a slight pause. A lot of times he'll kind of shake his head, which is a general body language tell when you're saying something positive, but maybe you're thinking something negative. And Tyrese Knight, I'm not saying he's a bust. None of this is like, the expectation for Tyrese Knight is that he was going to be a developmental linebacker. I told you that as soon as he got drafted. I told you that's what Mike Macdonald indicated. Anyone that, like, he said there was a bunch of things that he did not know how to do that they were going to have to teach him how to do, that at least that he hadn't done yet. And that implies that this guy's going to take a little time to pick it up. And so none of this is to say, oh, this is really bad news on Tyrese Knight. But what it also is, it's the absence of great news. If he was saying, man, Tyrese is blowing us away, he's picking this up way faster than we expect. He's pushing for snaps. I wouldn't expect that a few weeks in. But if he had said that would be really exciting. Instead, what we're getting about Tyrese Knight is kind of expect what we should expect. He's a backup linebacker, and he probably shouldn't be on the field this year other than maybe special teams and occasional snaps. So again, I think linebacker is a position where there's some real question marks for the Seahawks. Here was a clip. This was from Bob Condotta. I saw this clip from a few different people. It's a drill the defensive linemen are going through, and the first person going through it is Mike Morris. And the second person going through it is Byron Murphy. And for people listening, apologies, you won't be able to participate in this part. I'll kind of describe it. There are these blocking obstacles that they hit, these blocking bags that they hit and knock over. They're kind of like those dummy punching bags that have a weight at the bottom and swivel back and forth. Anyway, and they're kind of sideswiping these one hand and kind of slaloming through this series of blocking dummies. And just the difference in speed in how Mike Morris is doing this versus Byron Murphy. It was really interesting. And I don't know, it was so slow for Mike Morris. I'm wondering if this is new for him, if he's learning something, or maybe like, I don't know. I'll play the video here for you. Through. And this is Byron Murphy who's about to go through. He's just a beast. I mean, when Byron Murphy hits these things and when his body moves, it is just a different speed and different violence than anybody else. And so I don't know if like I literally the caption I have here is Mike Morris slow or is Byron Murphy fast? It might be both. I don't know. But Byron Murphy just looks so good. He looks so good, man. I can't wait to see him get out in the field. The only thing that doesn't look good is he's got one of those big concussion, hats on. Those are not good, but otherwise, man, he looks special. So a couple odds and ends. The offensive line depth chart, same. McClendon Curtis still right guard. Christian Haynes still second team. George Fant still right tackle. No Abe Lucas. Julian Love had the only interception on the day. And there was a little bit of a quote from Mike Macdonald on that front. I can see if I can find it real quick. Pretty sure. Yeah. Here it is. One sec. I'll share this with you. Okay. Let me play this quote for you from Mike Macdonald about Julian Love.
On the field, he has elite poise, and that's something that we're chasing. Like if something doesn't go our way, let's keep our poise. Let's play the next play. The game is slow to him, so to be able to communicate at a high level, I think, kind of shows you what it should feel like when he's out there. And we have several guys that are like that, so it's really exciting about that. But J Love in particular, like a guy that will be able to move around, change some different spots. You don't see that yet, but he'll be a guy that will be able to move around and utilize in a pretty sweet way.
So says about Julian Love, a couple things, but at the end there, he says he's a guy that we can utilize in a couple of pretty sweet ways. And he said, you haven't seen it yet. So like they've got some ideas of how they want to leverage Julian Love. He talked about him having elite poise. He talked about the fact that he's an elite communicator. And it also mentioned there, we've got a lot of guys like that, which is pretty cool. I mean, if Mike Macdonald in the second week or third week of OTAs, whatever this is saying we've got a lot of guys that are elite communicators, knowing how much communication is a key part of this defense, that's a really good sign. That's a really good sign. I mean, folks, I don't know how much people realize what percentage of yards in the NFL come from blown assignments, come from mental errors, come from lack of communication. It is a large number. I don't know it. Like, I'm not even sure there's a clean way to know that. But if you're in any locker room, if you're in any coach's office, and you were to ask them what percentage comes from mental errors or blown assignments in general, it wouldn't shock me at all if it's 40%. Like a significant chunk of yards just come from mistakes, not from being an inferior player, not from being an inferior athlete, but just doing the wrong thing. And so if you can have guys that are excellent communicators and you've got a coach who's excellent at installing, there's a chance you could really, like, if you can get that, let's say it's 40%. If you can get that down to 20% of the yards you give up are from mental errors, you are way ahead of the game. That can be the difference of 10 to 15 to 20 spots in rankings in the NFL as a defense. So I do think this matters. I think it's a big deal. Yes, it's one little quote, but let's have some fun. It's almost summer. Let's do it. All right. That was all I had on the prepared content side. Let me actually, I'm going to go ahead and try to find the Jarran Reed quote real quick. He talked about their, how they're getting used. And I thought that was worth a sec here. So let me see if I can find the Jarran Reed piece. But yeah, I think, there we go. I think I've got it already. Here we go. All right, 1 second here. Here is Jarran Reed, and I think this is him talking about the new coaches and the way, the versatility. And this is actually him talking about the new defensive line room.
I think it's a great change for us. I think we got a lot of guys that can play a lot of different positions. I'm excited to see where we can go with this. We got to get everybody back, everybody gelling together, but I'm excited to see where this defensive line can go.
What's different for you?
Excuse me?
Sorry, what's different for you?
I think that they can use a lot of my talents a little bit more, move me around a little bit more. I think we got multiple guys that can do that. That's the most part, not just us being stationary. I think moving us around a little bit creates some mismatches for everybody that's along the line.
So I think that was pretty cool, and something that I talked about in the defensive line show on Wednesday. One of the crazy things I talked about this was, Jarran Reed was asked to play at the A gap last year primarily, and he has not done that his entire career. He was a nose tackle last year, and yes, he was able to do that a little bit, and he can play that position, but that's not his best position, and he's not the best at it. And so now you've got a guy like Jonathan Hankins, who is a nose tackle and absolutely makes sense on base downs to play at the A gap. And it allows you to say, okay, if we want to have the best possible run defense out there, like, don't even think downs. Think about situations. Hey, we're in a situation against a really powerful running team. We want to get our best run stopping line out there. For whatever reason, that's more important than even pass rush. Now you've got the chance to say, all right, well, we're going to put Jarran Reed not at nose tackle. We're going to put Jarran Reed as a strong run defender at defensive end, where he's lined up over a guard, and he is better equipped in that situation. You've got Jonathan Hankins in the middle, who is perfectly equipped at nose tackle. You've got either Leonard Williams or Byron Murphy. And Byron Murphy, by the way, could sub for Jarran Reed in those situations. You've got options at these two end positions. And then you can go beyond that to say, well, Draymond Jones was playing a lot inside last year. He's undersized as a defensive tackle, but if you put him at edge, which he played the majority of his snaps last year, in the second half of the year, almost all his snaps were out there. Now you've got an exceptionally strong run defender at edge, and you put Uchenna Nwosu on the other side. He's a strong run defender. And so now you've got a 5-man front there that are all strong against the run. And the Seahawks could not do that last year. They did not have the horses to go big on the defensive line when they needed to. And so the fact that all these guys can move around, I mean, Hankins is going to stay where he is, but Mike Morris, will find out what he has to offer. So you've got these guys that can move around. For Jarran Reed, the other part of that for him is, despite the fact he took a step back in run defense last year because he was being asked to play a position where he was taking on double teams every single play, pretty much. he also had his best year as a pass rusher last year, not from a sack perspective, but from a pressure rate perspective. And the indication there is that he offers something at nose tackle in the pass rush that is more interesting and plays better than when he's at a defensive end spot playing in the B gap. And so now you've got this option. When you go to nickel, you can slide Jarran Reed to nose tackle and not lose a ton. It's not like he's terrible there as a run defender. And you can flank him with Byron Murphy and with Leonard Williams. And that's a pretty disruptive 3-man defensive line for pass rush situations. Then you can flank him on the outside with Nwosu and Mafe. And that's not a bad option. And that's not to say as well that you're forgetting about, you still got Devin Witherspoon, who's an elite blitzer there. You've got Rayshon Jenkins and Kayvon Wallace and other guys that can be part of that as well. Jerome Baker, who was an elite blitzer when he was with the Dolphins. So I just like the options they've got there. And it was cool to hear from Jarran Reed about that. What else? I think we've covered a lot of these things. Actually, here is here's one, another one from Jarran Reed. We're going to play this as well.
I think that'll benefit us a lot. Guys won't know where we're going to be at as much. So, we kind of create some confusion along the offensive line. And just show everybody's versatility. And I think that's the main thing because, 0, 3 to 4 to 5, believe it or not, it's all the same thing. There's a little different body types and speeds sometimes. But, work around that.
How much have you?
So yeah, that was just Jarran Reed again talking about the versatility and different places along the line they can play. So I just thought a lot of cool stuff coming out of yesterday. We'll get into a little bit more with Sam Howell's comments in another show, but I thought there was some good stuff there from Mr. Howell. And just in general, the Seahawks seem like they're having a solid start. I really love the energy we got from Macdonald at the jump in his press conference and how he felt about things. I think we got continuing good indications that he's figuring out how to communicate to the team. He's figuring out how to have those conversations and help the defense understand what success is, even when they are pretty limited in what they can do. We have a question from one of our YouTube members, Hawks fan Matt Man, and we try to always respond to especially our club and suite level YouTube members with questions. So Brian, would you be able to talk a bit about what teams are allowed to do and not allowed to do in OTAs and training camp under the current CBA? Yeah. So, I mean, the most important thing, like, it's basically no contact is one. So that's just across the board. But then 2, at this point in OTAs, they are not allowed, the defensive backs are not allowed to make a play on the football. So what that means is they can obviously catch it if it comes to them, but they cannot make a break on the ball and try to swat it down or try to intercept it if they're in coverage with somebody and the ball is coming to the receiver. So they can play defense, but they basically almost have to play without their hands. And they also are just trying to avoid, all these rules are basically trying to avoid contact situations. So that's primarily what it's about. And that's the biggest thing at this point. There are some other rules there, and I could look it up, but I think it would probably be a little bit less interesting for people to hear me read the rule book. But yeah, that's the one that I would call out as particularly meaningful. So before I say goodbye for the day, I do want to just let folks know 2:00 Sunday, make sure you are somewhere you can watch. We're going to have a live draft. You thought draft season was over. It's not. We're going to have a live draft with Rob Staten, Griffin Sturgeon, C. Mike Spin Move, Jeff Simmons, and me. And we are going to pick the best 48 players in the NFC West. And the way we're going to do this draft is we are going to basically think that we are the GM of a team that is trying to build a group for the next 3 years. Who would we pick? And this means we are going to account for their contracts. We're going to account for their age, for their injury history. We're going to account for the production that they've already had in the NFL and what we think they're going to do in the future. So it's going to be a mix of rookies. It's going to be a mix of veterans. You're going to see which quarterbacks go where. You're going to see which Seahawks go where. How many Seahawks end up getting drafted in the top 48 will be interesting. And each of us are going to come into this with our own big boards across the NFC West to compare and contrast where we see players. How much different were we on certain guys? And this is meant obviously just to be some fun. And I think as we start to look at the talent across the division and look out across the next 3 years, this gives us a chance to see, like, where are the Seahawks relative to the other teams in the NFC West? And I honestly have no idea. I've not done my big board yet. I'm going to work on it today. I don't know how many Seahawks are going to be on that list. My gut is it's going to be more than people might expect. But I don't know. I honestly don't. So I've got to go through. I've got to figure out what my drafting philosophy is going to be here. I know the guys are already working on their boards. And so that's going to be a fun show. It's going to be probably a few hours. So, Sunday afternoon, 2:00, tune in for that. It'll be a lot of fun. I will be on tomorrow as well. I think tomorrow's show, unless I come up with something else I'd rather do, I may want to do this show on linebacker options. I may go and look at, I'll talk about free agent linebackers, but I also will maybe want to do some research on, which teams have some good linebackers. So that's my guess about what tomorrow's show is going to be, but we'll find out together, and I'll be sure to promote that. I want to remind folks, if you want to listen to this show ad-free, become a patron. Patreon.com/hawkblogger. You sign up now. You get all the audio versions of this podcast, and there's no ads. It's just the show. So it's very easy to do. I know a lot of folks have started doing it, and would love to have you join. When you do that, you not only get the audio versions with no ads, but you also get access to the Slack channel immediately, where the conversations about the Mariners, Seahawks, all sorts of stuff keep going on. So definitely encourage you to join over at patreon.com/hawkblogger. As we march towards August, where we'll be making our next donation to Ben's fund. Would love it to be the biggest one yet, but need your help for that to happen. So patreon.com/hawkblogger. Would be great to have you there. All right, folks. That is another edition of Hawkblogger Mornings. I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Hawkblogger. Have a fantastic rest of your Friday. Take care.